Is it crazy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, treasure looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face. Excuse me, don't put words into my mouth. Whatever it is that will bring our military to disrepute, I said to hell.
On Core Digest,
I want to know why I should be believing them.
every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion.
Everybody has a right in Nigeria.
Where you are the judge.
Thank you so very much for staying with us. And the cause of the show, the program is still Core Digest on Core TV News. Like we've been discussing recently on the show, we're looking at the new change, of course, areas that we want the new administration to look into, because as Nigerians, we have a say as to what obtains in the country we call our home. And that's why we're looking at this new trend of change towards a new Nigeria, because we see the president saying he has zero tolerance to corruption. And of course, while a lot of Nigerians will come up with different reasons and what the president should do as we design a new change for ourselves. Now the question is, are Nigerians ready or not for this new change? Because if the president says he wants to probe, some Nigerians are calling that, no, don't probe, face governance. Others are saying, probe this set of people, don't probe this set of people. And so the question is, what should the president really do? And, you know, when I was thinking of this topic, the lyrics of popular musician Bob Marley came to mind. And, you know, at this point in time, this is where a lot of Nigerians are calling for redemption. And the lyric says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fears for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just part of it. We have got to fulfill the book. And all we have in our heads is redemption song. When will Nigeria come to the Nigeria where you believe that you can walk to any office without tipping any official and get what you want done? Or your child can go to university without bribing any lecturer? When would we have a Nigeria where a very big man on a spinning chair would not deprive you of what really belongs to you just because he is at the top, the Oga at the top syndrome? And that's what I want to look at towards a new Nigeria. Are we really ready or not? And today on the show with me, I have two wonderful guests. One is a human rights activist. His name is Akoni Iromini. And Akoni Iromini is the founder, leader, Awake Nigeria Movement. Awake Nigeria Movement is a pro-democracy group that has been involved in democratic and human rights activities since 1980, having worked closely with the late human rights activist Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti till he died in 2006. Good morning, Akoni Iromini. Thank you very much for being on the show. All right, and I have a legal practitioner, also an economist, but we'll be taking him on as a legal practitioner this morning. His name is Fred Ezeako. Good morning. It's nice having you on the show.
Good morning.
All right. Yeah, so we'll be discussing towards a new Nigeria. Not just the leaders now, but the Nigerians themselves. Are they ready or not? All right, so to start with what we'll be looking at today. Now, I'll start with the rights activists. You said you started the campaign as far back as 1980,
Yes.
1980, and even till the death of former Beko Ransom Kuti. And now, with what you see happening in Nigeria now, would you say what you've been fighting for back then is coming to play now?
No.
Why?
Though it appears President Muhammadu Buhari means well for this country, but it will be very difficult for him to win the fight against corruption because it's approaching it wrongly.
Okay.
The real problem of Nigeria is the unethical, money bag political system, that is making politicians spend millions, billions, and trillions of naira during elections. And when they get to power, they recoup their money, they look the treasury empty, and they now see all the goodies that is emanating from government activities as profits on their investment during elections. What do I mean by goodies? The small contract, the medium contract, the big contract is being cornered by these politicians. Not only that, the employment, today my children, your children can no longer get employment, in government establishment. It is only their own people, that has access to all those opportunities. So until the president tackle that area, changing the way we elect leaders, nothing is going to change.
But the president was just recently elected by Nigerians and stuff. And so if you say his approach is not right, he just got into power. And so what power does he have to correct the electoral system in the country if you say he's not really doing so well at this time?
What I'm saying is that the first step is to tackle the electoral system, so that we can stop this madness, because that is the cause of all Nigeria problems, which corruption is just one of them. The moment you tackle that problem, all Nigeria would
okay. Now, I want to be clear. Are you blaming him for the past electoral system, or you are telling him to see it as something he should look into? Of course, we have the Kogi and Bayelsa governorship election coming up very soon. Are you saying he should look into the elections that are coming up, or what are you really saying?
The election of 2019, before 2019, we should change the system through which we elect our leaders. If it truly mean to change, the system, or else we are getting to nowhere, because this man has only 2 years to perform. After 2 years, the election issue will come up again. What I mean is that the 2 years, that is the only period he has to actually perform. Moment after that 2 years, the election issue will begin to engage him.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. And 3 months has gone, almost gone, out of the 2 years, and it's still at the level of federal level. We have all the 774 local governments in Nigeria, as part of corrupt practices. We have all the 36 states in the country as all part of corrupt practices. All the federal and state ministry, corruption is going on everywhere, and it's still at the federal level. 3 months into his tenure.
Right.
So to me, if it doesn't go straight to tackle that electoral process, is getting nothing at the end of the day. Because the moment you tackle that area, the corruption will go down at all levels.
Right.
Because most of the civil servants that are serving today, all the workers of the private sector that are not seeing ambition of going to Nigerian politics, they have manipulated their position through which they are extorting money from Nigerians in their anticipation to go into politics after their retirement. So until the moment you stop that unethical process, all the corruption problem in Nigeria will begin to go down, because people will now know that when it's time for me to run for elected position, I don't need to accumulate money, because you need minimum of 50 million to run for chairmanship election. You need billions to run for governor. You need trillion to run for presidency. So where do you expect Nigerian people who genuinely have good intention to serve their country to come up, and be part of it?
All right, now let's move to the legal practitioner on the show. Recently the president called on lawyers to help him in his fight against corruption, because this is the time where a lot of people would be faced with different probes, and lawyers will be the one to represent them at the court of law. And he said something very interesting, that lawyers, regardless of the brief they see, they should let their conscience lead them into the job. So how does this balance what the lawyer is supposed to do the tenets of the practice and, of course, the financial implication of this charge by the president?
I think the charge by the president is more or less a moral suasion, which is not new in our system. Moral suasion in the sense that a lawyer has multiple duties. He has a duty first and foremost to justice, to ensure that there's justice in the system. He has a duty to the court as an officer in the temple of justice to assist the court towards arriving at the justice of any case, be it civil or criminal. He also has a duty to his client who engaged him or who he is representing. Because not every client that is being represented by a lawyer engaged the lawyer. In some cases, especially in criminal cases, when an accused does not have the capacity to engage a lawyer to defend him, the accused is given a lawyer by the state or by the Legal Aid Council, or affords the services of a legal practitioner on pro bono basis. Now, he has a duty to such an accused. He also has a duty to the society to ensure that justice is not only done, but is seen to have been done, such that those who are victims of injustice will begin to have restitution. Those who are victims of crime will begin to have some palliatives. So in the mix of these multiple responsibilities of a legal practitioner, he has to strike a balance. And don't forget that he has a fifth duty to himself and to his family, because a legal practitioner may not have any other business that brings him other streams of income. He has to feed from what he does. In that case, he is entitled to payment for his services. So in the midst of all this, he has to strike a balance. And that is that balance that the president was admonishing and encouraging lawyers to strike a balance with due sense of judgment, with due sense of civility, with due sense of integrity, bearing in mind that that duty to the society is very, very important. But then, the law makes it that everybody accused of any evil is entitled to legal representation. And in our own system, you are presumed innocent. The accused is presumed innocent until he is proven guilty. So, how do you presume him innocent and not allow him to be represented? How do you presume him innocent and not allow a lawyer to defend him? So, if you don't allow a lawyer to defend him, it now goes into the issue of injustice. So, it is the duty of the society to also help the lawyers to strike that balance. And that is why the lawyer is not the judge. The bar is distinct from the bench. The lawyer will rigorously try to defend his client or the accused, while the bench will listen, close its eyes, and strike the justice where it should be struck. So, the speech by the president was not only addressed to the lawyers, in this case to the bar, it was also addressed to the bench, because the NBA, for instance, which created the forum where the president made the speech, is an aggregation of all legal practitioners. And of course, you first become a legal practitioner before you become a judge or a magistrate. Yeah. So everybody who is an officer in the temple of justice is first and foremost a legal practitioner. It's either you are at the bar or you are on the bench. So it's a very good forum to address such people, such that in every dealing in the temple of justice, let us bear in mind the duty to the society and the duty to humanity. But that does not in any way suggest that those who are officers in the temple of justice will be demonized at all. Because when there is a sweeping generalization that judges or lawyers are corrupt, it is far from the truth. In every society, there's this common saying that in every 12, there must be a Judas. In every society, human society, there must be some people who will always want to subvert the system. And so it is in every profession. There are some judges who are not very decent, who are corrupt. There are also some lawyers who are corrupt, who mind mainly the duty to their finances.
All right, now with this new wind of change, this new wind of let's have a better Nigeria,
Yes.
is it doable for lawyers to identify those that some of their clients, they know that, you know, I don't even need a soothsayer to tell me that you are corrupt and you are you are confirmed to have done all of those. Is it doable for a lawyer to decide not to defend such a client
I think
at the court of law?
it is prejudicial and it is also extrajudicial to begin to jump to a conclusion that somebody is corrupt without trial. Because sometimes some people are labeled corrupt on account of their political position and political leaning. Some people are labeled corrupt on account of the perception of the person who labels them corrupt. And that is why there is this cardinal principle in law, audi alteram patem, this principle of fair hearing. You must hear out the man that you are accusing. You must hear him out. If you fail to hear him out, you have not meted justice to him. In the process of hearing him out, you must give him the opportunity to defend himself or herself. It is only when he fails to defend himself or herself that he is found guilty and he is labeled a corrupt person. Without such procedure being undertaken, without going through the whole hog of that process, it is not good and it is extrajudicial to label somebody corrupt. So, there comes the fact that no matter how you perceive somebody, no matter how you feel somebody has conducted himself in office, either corruptly enriching himself or otherwise, you must present the facts of the accusation before a competent court of jurisdiction to look into that. And once that is looked into and the person is found guilty, the law stands on its legs, and the bench will immediately discharge the justice of the case. And in that case, the lawyer will have no other option than to plead allocutus, to plead for leniency. Please, my lord, now that it is like this, kindly tamper justice with mercy. Because sometimes such justice will only act as deterrent against future occurrences or a lesson against those who may want to toe the same line. And that is why we have the prison system. Okay. The prison system is not only to punish offenders, but also to reform them. Because sometimes crimes are committed out of psychological or sociological or physiological imbalance in the makeup of the criminal.
All right. Now, to further buttress, if we're really ready for the new change that the president and his team are calling for at this time, for the right activists now, with what you see on the pages of the newspaper on certain leaders who are being probed, while some who are being published to be involved in contracts, reading the country of millions of naira. The former governor of Lagos State is one who we see on the dailies of the front page saying that he used certain amounts for his personal website. And all of the issues you see happening, would you say it's justice coming to play, or we are playing to the gallery?
We are playing to the gallery. It will be very difficult for justice, it is very difficult to take up the caliber of corrupt people in this country.
Difficult, you say?
Yes.
Is the law not supreme? Is there anyone above the law?
Well, he's a lawyer. He knows much better than me. But what I'm telling you is that, as far as I know, as a layman on the street, the corrupt people, real corrupt people in Nigeria, they are very powerful. They are the one even controlling the economy. And if they are persecuting Fashola today, that Fashola has spent some amount of money to build a website, what I want you to know is that it's all politics, because all of them are corrupt. You have the kittens in the area of corruption, and you have the fat cats. To us, Fashola is just a kitten among them. But until...
Who is the fat cat, sir?
I don't want to mention them. So, what I'm saying is that Buhari doesn't have what it takes to tackle the kind of corruption in Nigeria today, because he's a member of the ruling class. And if it's to take up what it takes to fight the kind of corruption, it will also, catch up with him.
Are you saying the president is not really ready to fight corruption?
It appears ready, but his approach is wrong. Are you getting me? Corruption is not only the problem. It's the process through which you elect leader that throw up so many problems. And corruption is just one of them. So fighting corruption, which he cannot even fight, because he's no longer a military man, he has to go through the process of the law. Even if he set up special court, he cannot use military law to run this special court. We still need to go by our constitution. So to me, Buhari will not solve our problems unless he's ready to tackle that process. And that process will render all the ruling class in Nigeria today irrelevant. That is the major problem.
All right, judging from what you said now, is our law so weak that some people are really above the law?
I think what my dear brother, Mr. Iromine, is saying, he's pointing to the process of electing our leaders in Nigeria, which he said is very expensive. Yes, it's one of the foundations of corruption in the country. But the challenge we have is that presidential democracy is generally very expensive. So that tells you that unless we go back to the foundation, to the substructure of Nigerian political system and rejig it properly, and go back, which will also involve going back to the concept and doctrine of true federalism. Because what we practice now is pseudo-federalism. If we now go back to that, it will now begin to walk from down up. Otherwise, the presidential system of government that we practice, which we borrowed from America, only borrowed the expensive side of that system and left behind what builds up to make the system what it is. And what builds up to make the system what it is that works in America is true federalism. Otherwise, the man in Ogun State may not bother about what the man in Kauranamoda is doing. The man in Anambra State may decide that they will elect somebody who does not have 1 naira but has integrity. And the man in River State, where there is so much money, may decide, no, it is you who brings the largest chunk of money that we elect. So when you now look at it properly, it is the foundation of the system that is the problem. And that is what my brother is complaining about. It is only part of the problems that we have. Because as we speak, virtually many states in Nigeria are not viable in practice, but they are potentially viable with the given resources that we have. And why are they not viable in practice? Because most of the states have abandoned what they should do to generate income and revenue, not by taxation. Because anytime we talk of IGR, government officials will run to taxation. No, not by taxation, but by production, enhanced production, because God has given Nigeria quantum wealth in terms of raw materials and human resources. And our productive base is so weak, and that is why even our economics cannot hold sway.
You're a legal practitioner.
Yes.
Do we have people in Nigeria who are above the law?
There is this book by George Orwell, Animal Farm, that said all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. That book is a satire of exactly what is going on in Nigeria. All men are born equal, but some are more equal than the others. Those who George Orwell described as being more equal than the others are those that we perceive are above the law. And those are the ones that they have been glamorized in so many names. Sometimes they were called cabals, sometimes they were called the untouchables, sometimes they were called the godfathers. If a man commits an offense and he's not brought before the law and adequately punished, how do you describe it? In simple practice, he seems to be above the law. But the law, stricto sensu, does not allow anybody to be above it. In principle, nobody should be above the law. But in practice, some animals are more equal than the others. And that is what he's complaining about. That in the anti-corruption crusade of the federal government, how does he deal with those animals that are more equal than the others? Because those are the animals that brought about his stay in power.
Young, you started this campaign as far back as 1980. Do you see the Buhari administration tackling these cabals in this new dispensation?
I've said that earlier.
You said election, but you know, let's talk about now. What can he do now? Because it will take him until 2019 to restructure the electoral process. Can he tackle the cabal within the system since he wants Nigeria to be clean and clear?
He cannot. He cannot. These people,
Even with the probe of past administration?
unless they will collapse the economy. These people have invested their ill-gotten money in all sectors of economy. I'm into printing business, I've run farm, and I know what I went through. You will go and borrow money, maybe 2 million, to start a poultry. Then somebody that has stolen money will use 2 billion to compete with you in the same business, and before you know it, you are out of that business. Any press you see in Nigeria today that is lucrative, that is flourishing with jobs, go and find out who is the owner. It's somebody in government. It's somebody that has just retired. So, President Buhari, you know, I really feel for him because it appears he mean well. He actually wanted to, you know, rescue us out of this crisis. But I don't think he has what it takes, because he's not ready to take the people along. You know, apart from the people voted for him. Many people voted based on ignorance, based on poverty level in the country. But they refuse to educate people for them to know their rights, so that when the election comes, they will choose right. Nigerian politicians rely on their stolen money to win elections. And that is through which Buhari too got to that seat. So it's very difficult for him to now work against the interests of those, you know, that help him to power. So to me, if we actually want to rescue Nigeria, let it start from electoral process. That is the solution to all our problems. I'm still saying that because my concept has a concept that can tackle all that.
About Nigerians knowing their rights, you know, for the 2015 election, we saw a lot of individuals and groups rise up to educate Nigerians on what they should do as regards to who they vote for. But, you know, regardless of the campaign and the teaching and the lecturing, we still see some people who voted for candidates based on the bag of rice, the tubers of yam they got. So is it really a leader problem or the people themselves? Are Nigerians really ready for change?
That is why after about 33 years of military rule, the first thing that they're supposed to put in place, you know, when handed over power to civilians, you know, was to reorientate all Nigerians. because the many years of military rule has, turned many Nigerians, to be docile. That anything they give to them now, they take it. And we will need to go back to the people, bring them together, educate them on electoral process, on good governance, and you also take them through reorientation. That is when they will now be on ground, to be part of the nation building. But the way it is now, Buhari will not get anywhere. Mark my word, because of the approach. It might not be intentional. Are you getting me?
The approach, what advice do you have him? Okay, aside from the fact that you said the election, the process, what advice do you have for him now? Now that his approach is to you not so good, what advice do you have for him, aside from the electoral process, for him to really, really fight this corruption he is willing to fight?
That is the only
means
that I have for him, because that's involved people's involvement. That will bring in all Nigerians. Because what you are saying is that bring 5,000 people together in each of the local governments, and in each of the 774 local governments in Nigeria. Let them go through electoral education. Let them go through good governance. Let them go through reorientation. And when elections come, let them pick among themselves and contribute small money. We have all the breakdown in our publications. We also have it on our website. You need just little money. Maybe all the money we contribute to become president, to become governor, to become councillor, or whatever, will not be up to 10,000 naira. And that's all you need to contribute. Once they pick you, they will voluntarily form themselves to campaign group. They will go from street to street, house to house, campaigning for you without you giving them a dime. And on the election day, they will also form themselves to party agents and election observer without taking money from you. So you are not going to spend a dime. We've done the pilot project and we discovered that, it is actualizable.
No.
So,
all right, as a right activist, some people would argue that Nigerians are docile people, they don't talk. But it's interesting to know that this part of the world is where we have a lot of rights activists. If you are to count them, the thousands people standing up, representing this group, representing that, representing this, and they have followers really, but we do not see the activism play out in what the average Nigeria sees as good or right. So will the solution be more rights activists, or what really would you ascribe to?
You are a journalist, and you have what they call investigative journalism. Please go and investigate those people. They are agents of politicians. 99% of them. Are you getting me? I follow Beko for 21 years. If I'm placing an issue before you, it's not based on theory. It's based on what I've gone through. You have activists, they come to the civil society, just to be known, to be noticed. They have opportunity of going to television stations to make noise, and before you know it, they will go and steal money and start running for political, offices. So when you see somebody presenting himself to you as an activist, please go and find out his background. You will know that they are just pretenders.
All right, let me take up the legal practitioner. While the president at the federal level is tackling corruption, the Inspector General of Police has said several times that policemen should not take bribe. They should be seen as enforcement of peace and order. And we have a case in Jalingo about a trailer driver and his conductor who were killed recently, even after the directive by the IG that policemen should not take bribe. They were killed over not giving out 500 naira bribe. What's your reaction to this?
You're going very far by going to Jalingo. Over there in Ikorodu, yesterday, a naval rating shot and killed 3 people. He was in uniform, and then it was reported that he was drunk. A policeman who misuses his firearm and kills a driver and his conductor was not only because of the bribe issue. He was probably mentally deranged, or he had a bout and of occasional bout of mental derangement, because there's no reason why a trained policeman equipped with firearm should shoot and kill innocent driver and his conductor for not parting with mere 500 naira. So that tells you that the problem is not only, it was not a matter of, that one was not a problem of corruption. It's a problem of recruitment of wrong personnel into the armed forces and the police. If you profile some policemen, you find out that some of them were ex-criminals, ex-prisoners, people who were disenchanted with their positions in the society. And because Nigeria has very poor data storage system, very poor data profiling system, recruitments were done of people whose integrity could not be ascertained. And when they go to the forces and they are equipped with arms, instead of using those arms for the good of the society, some of them turn those arms against the society. Yes, there may be corruption. Yes, police may be collecting 20 naira, 15 naira, 100 naira, as the case may be. I do not support that. But I want to tell you, without fear of contradiction, that the system sometimes forces policemen to be corrupt. A policeman, a team of policemen on patrol will be sent out on patrol. They are not provided with petrol for their vehicle. The vehicle does not have spare tire. It does not have jack. The vehicle does not have other facilities. They will go to police station, they will go to the road. It is money they collect from innocent Nigerians that they use to fuel the vehicle with which they patrol. You go to the police station, ordinary paper to make statement, they will tell you that they buy these papers. And if you think it is a lie, you see them walk across the road to go and buy statement papers. You see them do that. And they will come and begin to take statement of either an accused or a witness. Whose money would that be? You expect him to pay from his salary? Obviously, it is you that will bring out the money. Bail is free, conspicuously written in all police formations. But I tell you that there is no bail that is free in anywhere in Nigeria. No bail is free. Failure to part with some money, you will begin to get stringent conditions.
Where goes the right of an average Nigerian here?
The right of an average Nigerian is to coagulate their forces against the impunity in the land. I tell you that an average Nigerian is docile. When you say an average Nigerian, we are looking at the majority of the people are docile. They have lost the power to fight. They have lost the zeal to fight for their own right and their own interest. Partly because of the way and manner the leaders have led them, and partly because they themselves are also guilty of one level of corruption or the other.
Saying Nigerians are docile, these days we see residents in areas who do not have lights for weeks protesting, going about the streets, protesting what they claim to be their rights. We also see some workers who are not being paid their salary. They protest, they sit on the road, do all sorts. Yeah. Would you describe that as being docile?
Well, these are pockets of activism. These are few pockets of activism, some of which are not even sustained. Because by the time they just do that, and there is the minimal harassment, everybody will scamper to safety. By the time they do that and there is minimal stretch on their patience, everybody will pipe down and go back to his or her business. But I must give it to Nigerians as well that the culture of collective agitation is gradually creeping into our system. The culture of collective agitation. And that is one of the major things that can pull down any government. When people begin to complain, for instance, there has been hue and cry against the fat and jumbo pay received by legislators, especially at the National Assembly level. They have tried to do something about it, but the system has not allowed that something be done. And you'll be surprised that after a while, Nigerians will begin to forget it and begin to think of moving forward. How do you move forward when you are coming from a position that has not been fair to all? The newspapers today, one of the papers said that the legislators and National Assembly are provided with about 46,000 naira daily allowance for newspapers. 46,000 naira daily allowance for newspapers. If that is true, is it not in the same country that a man or a woman goes to work and works for the same federal government and goes home with 18,000 naira at the end of the month? That translates to less than 500 naira a day. And in the same country, one man is provided with 46,000 naira to buy newspapers. These are some of the injustices that we kick against and that must be redressed.
Okay.
It comes in so many ways. And Nigerians must not relent in agitating, both individually, collectively, and more collectively, because there is unity in strength, and there is strength in unity.
Now, to the right activists, now, what would you ascribe to be more like the block in the knee of activists who are not able to sustain a protest they initially stand up to fight? What really happens? Because we see this day, they come up to protest ill treatment, and the next minute, nothing has been said about it. So what's happening to the sustainability of this protest these days?
It's majorly funding. Because if I have my own money, I will not need to be pleading with them. I will go straight to action. And I can tell you, my group can strike a revolution, a violence-free revolution, that will bring about a complete new Nigeria, where only the interests of the people will always be at the front border. But because we don't have our own money, and the politicians, you can't take money from them. Let me tell you something. They've approached me to come for money and suspend my group activities. And when I asked them why, they said they have invested heavily in building structures across the country based on the present political system. That if what you are preaching, Nigerian people understand what you are preaching, where do you expect us to run to? And I told the old man they said to me, he was one of my leaders, that is it right for some individual to see Nigeria as a limited liability company where they invest their ill-gotten money, and when they go to power, they see everything as profit on their investment. That I don't need that money, but you should help me talk to them to adopt this concept. Since that time, they've been humiliating my effort. So that is the problem. They will continue to suppress you.
Has that deterred you from raising your voice since?
It doesn't. That's why I'm here today. Are you getting me? It's people like you, the media people that can really, stand for us. Besides that, the people in government today, they don't want any change, including Buhari. That is the truth. Because
you're saying the president doesn't want change? Because he's preaching change.
He's wishing change, but his hands were tied because of where he's coming from, because of the process that put him in that power.
He's raised different panels to probe different people, and
they continue to raise panel. Before you know it, 4 years will go. Are you getting me? 3 months has gone now, almost gone now. What have you achieved? How much have you recovered? How many people have been sent to jail? We have some cases in court for the past 10 years. So to me, it's Nigerian people that will take up the fight. We have all the, I mean, the process, to get them organized, and strike this violence revolution. But the problem has been that we don't have money. But if you people can continue to help us, at least for people to be aware of our activities,
You see, what Comrade is saying is that when you reflect deeply on this topic towards a new Nigeria, ready or not, the question will be, are the leaders ready for a new Nigeria? Comrade is saying the leaders are not ready because of the way they came to power, and they felt they need to harvest the fruit of their efforts. The next question will be, are the followers ready? The people, are they ready for a new Nigeria? The answer is yes and no. Some are ready, some are not ready. Because over time, the people have been inundated with the culture of greed, the culture of avarice, the culture of looting and treasury plundering. And those who had plundered the common patrimony of the country are still walking freely in the society until they begin to get into prison where they naturally belong, and until a lot of their ill-gotten wealth, if not all, is returned back to our treasury, and until we set a deterrence against future looting, his prediction will come to pass. So, it is a two-sided thing. The leaders and the people. Obviously, the leaders are not ready. The change we are talking about is change of personality and not change of orientation. Buhari is wishing a change of orientation. He wants a change of orientation. But just like he said, the system seems to be tying his hands. If you look at how much that was spent in presidential election, if you are given the figure, you will marvel. And where did the money come from? And if such money was not spent, meanwhile the laws are there. The Electoral Act 2010 as amended stipulates how much maximum any electoral office, any person seeking electoral office should spend. But the law is more observed in breach than in practice. Because nobody, I tell you, I underline, nobody adheres to the provisions of that law. And why is the society not asking questions? And why is the system not punishing people who go above what the law has said? Why is the law a lame dog and incapable of bringing people to book? And that has led people to begin to, out of desperation and exasperation, begin to call for benevolent dictatorship. But we cannot go back to that.
Yes.
We cannot go back to that.
You know,
Now the dictatorship we are now asking for has to be the dictatorship of the proletariats. The people themselves have to now be the dictators. The people themselves have to now pull down the leaders who do not do well. Because the leaders themselves can never put themselves down. Somebody is moving from one party to another. If your party is in power and you left the other party, you have become a saint. You move from PDP to APC. All your sins in PDP are forgiven because APC is in power. You move from APC to PDP in any state where PDP is in power, you have become a saint. That is the conspiracy of the elite against the people, against the masses, and against the rest of the land.
now the spokesman to the Labour Party recently said that if the president does not appoint the Attorney General of the Federation, that is war against corruption cannot really stand. How true is that?
I earlier said that in another forum where I had opportunity to say that that even if the president wants to tarry on appointment of ministers, he should appoint the Attorney General without delay. And if he wants to separate the office of Attorney General from that of Minister for Justice, he should do that quickly without delay. He can hold on with the appointment of the Minister for Justice and appoint Attorney General of the Federation. I said that long time ago, that without appointment of the Attorney General, the fight against corruption will have K-leg, borrowing Obasanjo's words. We have K-leg in the sense that 1999 Constitution vests on the Attorney General some rights. Every prosecution is done at the instance of the Attorney General. Every prosecution at the federal level. Every prosecution at the state level is done at the instance and on behalf of the Attorney General at the state level. And that is why Section 174 of the Constitution gives the Attorney General the right of nolle prosequi, the right and the authority to discontinue any case in the court of law against anybody who, in his right opinion, that should not be prosecuted for any further. Even if the Constitution made it such that it is such a sacrosanct authority that even if such right is exercised in error, it cannot be queried. The only way you query that is to ask the appointer of the Attorney General to review the appointment of the Attorney General. In that case, that serves as check and balance against the abuse of such office and the abuse of the doctrine and principle of nolle prosequi. So it is a very important office towards dispensation of justice in any system. And I will use this medium again to call on the president to appoint the Attorney General for the Federation without any further delay.
Now, speaking of Nigerians who would come out to speak regardless of the position they hold or regardless of the implication of what it is they say, you know, we see the case in Osun State, the Judge Oloyede, who called for the impeachment of the governor of the state. And this same Oloyede has not had it simple, because even as at now, she's been queried by the NJC for husband snatching. So as a legal practitioner and as a rights activist who want to speak, who wants to talk, do you think Nigeria really plays a very friendly ground for people to come out and raise their voices? Oloyede as an example.
It is a very good question you've asked. And that's why I said that the leaders are not ready for change. And they can never be ready for change until the people force them to change. And that is why I call for the dictatorship for the proletates. The system does not allow courage when it comes to whistle blowing. And that is why so many people will blow the whistle under the table, only for their face not to be seen, but let the whistle, the sound of whistle, be heard. But in a sane, well, let me not use the word sane, in a more civilized environment, anybody who wants to blow the whistle will blow it standing on the table, so that both himself is seen and the sound of the whistle is heard. Justice Oloyede has displayed rare courage that is symptomatic of the phenomena of Zaria, the types of Fumilayo Ramson Kuti of the old, the types of Margaret Ekpo of the old. And such display of rare courage should not be swept under the carpet. I think it is very shameful. I speak without fear of being contradicted, that National Judicial Council should be dragging itself in the mud. That institution should be dragging itself in the mud by beginning to meddle into private lives of judges, when he said that Justice Oloyede was being queried for husband snatching. How pedestrian that can be. Husband snatching? Can you imagine that? When does that become the purview of NJC to look into who sleeps with what? That is very, very pedestrian. And NJC must watch it before we begin to read the hand of Esau on the body of Jacob.
All right, thank you, Fred. Before the right activist give his comment on that, let's just go on this quick break. And when we come back, the phone lines will be open for you to call in to give your question, your contribution. Stay tuned.
Some pundits believe that as long as the political system is driven by selected few, corruption may be difficult to fight.
You should be careful about what you say. I am not the only politician. Even if I've wronged anyone, it is time to forgive me.
Political Arena every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. and a repeat broadcast every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.